What's up, everybody? Welcome back. How you doing? How you been? What's hanging? What it is. I hope everybody watching is doing very well and that 2026 is treating you rather kindly thus far. And by the way, if my throat gives out at any point during this video, I'd like to just go on ahead and apologize beforehand because I am just now getting over being sick yet again this past week. It's been absolutely ridiculous. Like, there was some kind of super flu that was being passed around in northern Alabama for a minute and everybody was staying sick. But anyways, I thought to myself recently that it is far overdue for me to do another religious scandal reaction video because the last one that I did actually received quite a bit of attention. So for today, I'm going to be reacting specifically to scandal shorts that deal with Mormons. And I know I've expressed this before on my previous religious scandal video, but I have nothing but absolute contempt for Mormonism. Not Mormons per se. Well, actually, yeah, a good bit of Mormons as well. But I don't judge them automatically for simply having been Mormon. Really, it's the religion itself, for me, that breeds toxicity and vile behavior, and I don't care how you want to try to explain it away. Mormonism is a cult, and I could dive fathoms deep into why that is, but that might have to wait for another video. For now, let's get to these shorts and see how long I last before I blow an artery.
I met an investigator and she seemed really awesome, like so prepared to hear the message. And when we get to her house, she has done some Googling and she has learned that the apostles get a stipend, they get paid. I didn't know that. My whole life as a member, I didn't know that they got paid.
It's like $300,000 and they have like $1 million credit line that they can draw against for things like a cabin in Midway or Heber.
Probably a lot of members don't know that information.
Oh, none do.
So this investigator is telling me that she'd seen something about Peter F. Uchtdorf buying a house or something. And I was distraught because I had no answers for her. So I go to my mission president and he says, well, it's because they leave their whole life. And so he kind of I was like, okay, I guess I can see that they have to give up everything to be in the church. So I guess
no, but Boyd K. Packer was like an educator. And he had at least 3 houses when he died, and they make a lot of money.
Another moment where I'm kind of like, something feels weird, but I was pacified. Oh, don't worry about it. There's reasons.
Oh, there's reasons, all right. And the reasons are because you were bamboozled, my dear. I've said it so many times, guys, and I'll say it again. Religion is big business. This is why so many religious groups, namely Mormons and Scientologists, encourage their congregation not to look at media. It does tend to make it a little bit awkward when you get called out for being a tax-exempt pyramid scheme.
She exposes the Mormon temple. Watch this.
When I was a Mormon, I participated in a very secretive initiation ceremony called the endowment. Even though my parents and every single church leader who I knew growing up participated in this ceremony, I still had no idea what happened in a temple. I grew up with photos of temples in my childhood bedroom, and I grew up singing I Love to See the Temple in primary, and yet somehow this entire ceremony was still kept a complete secret from me. During the ceremony, I was symbolically washed with water, and I was anointed with oil. I was asked to promise that I would wear this as underwear day and night for the rest of my life. I was told that wearing these robes and learning special secret handshakes was one of the most important aspects of my eternal salvation. When this happened to me, I was honestly completely repulsed. I felt very betrayed that this secret ceremony that was at the heart of my religion had been kept a secret from me my entire life. Despite my disgust, I went back to the temple again and again because I was so brainwashed to believe that this was the only way to be with God again.
Yup. The way to God's love is through your underwear, guys. And am I the only one that thinks the term endowment is just slightly super creepy given the context?
Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, got access to this document along with other Egyptian artifacts. He claimed it was a writing of Abraham himself, and God gave him the power to translate it. How exciting. That's more scripture we can add to the Bible. The only problem is, scholars have shown this document to be created over 1,800 years after the death of Abraham. And they've uncovered the true meaning of these documents, and Joseph Smith was totally wrong. Turns out Joseph Smith was no more than a liar, a fraud, and a con man. Check out the full video, linked
Who didn't see that coming? A guy claiming that he spoke to God and Jesus was actually a fraud? You just can't trust anyone anymore, can you? It was almost like a competition back in the day, like different people claiming that they spoke to God and obviously what he wants people to do. Which, if you add subtitles, simply translates to, hi, I'm loud, cunning, possibly schizophrenic, and most likely narcissistic. And I'd like all of you to do things for me, please.
Here are 3 facts that made me, a lifelong Mormon, realize the Book of Mormon is a made-up fantasy book. The Book of Mormon claims to be a non-fiction book about real-life Native Americans. These Native Americans originated in Israel and came on a boat across the Atlantic Ocean to settle in the Americas. The church had to update the introduction to the book when DNA evidence proved that Native Americans came from East Asia, not from Jerusalem. The Book of Mormon is full of anachronisms. If this was really a non-fiction book about ancient people thousands of years ago, it shouldn't mention many different things that were actually present in Joseph Smith's time, not in ancient times. The presence of things like iron and steel make it clear that Joseph Smith made this book up. This book also discusses many different battles that took place between thousands of people in ancient time in the Americas, but no archaeological evidence of these battles as described has ever been found.
Yeah, that's an argument that I've made about the Book of Mormon several times. Many of the animals, weaponry, and plants were not native to the Americas and were never in the Americas during this time frame. That's why, if you're gonna make up stupid you might want to do your homework.
Typically, I don't tell Mormons they are cult members.
Are you kidding me? I've told almost every form of Christian that they're in a cult. Granted, in my defense, it's typically when I'm being harassed or bothered to the extent that I just can't keep to myself. I don't just walk around actively telling Christians that they're in a cult. But if you come up to me and bother me about my personal preferences in any way, I will most definitely explain to you why you're in a cult just based on that premise alone. Moving on.
Typically, I don't tell Mormons they are cult members because it's not really effective. It just makes them upset and kills the conversation. But with that said, here are a few cult-like behaviors I have noticed from meeting with Mormons over the years. Number 1 is that they teach that disagreement is demonic. This is done so that if you present objections to them, they'll say, oh, this is demonic, we gotta get out of here. This is a mechanism to prevent their missionaries from converting away from the faith. Number 2 is they will always outnumber you when meeting to talk about Mormonism. I've noticed that when there's a missionary who's less mature in their faith, typically a higher up will encourage them not to meet you again. This seems to be done to prevent them from hearing objections to their beliefs. And the third is they teach that evidence is secondary to emotion. So if there's evidence against Mormonism that violates your emotion, you should reject that because emotion over evidence.
Yeah, right, because God forbid we hurt their feelings.
What you're about to hear is yet more audio of Paul writing meeting with Chelsea Goodrich and her mother Lorraine.
We both agree that we will not disclose that we've settled with you, and you will not disclose that you've settled with the church, other than your attorney or financial advisors, and they must maintain confidentiality as well. Okay. Second paragraph, I'll be interested in your response, but the recommendation is that you acknowledge that there's been some recordings made of all of our communications, and that you agree to destroy those recordings within 10 days of signing this.
Fortunately, thanks to Eric Alberti, a church member who attended the meetings as Chelsea's advocate and also made recordings, we are able to hear exactly what a meeting with the church's director of the Risk Management Division sounds like. The full article, as always, is in the description, and if Mike Resende's work with the Catholic Church is anything to go by, I'm sure this isn't the last you'll be hearing from him on this matter. To make sure you stay up to date on the unfolding events in the world of Mormonism, be sure to subscribe.
Wait, what did they settle on? What was the context of this? I must know! Well, it obviously shows again that the church is having to settle out of court with something else, that's for damn sure. There has been so much that has happened behind closed doors in the Mormon community. Especially a lot of sexual misconduct.
In the 1980s, Mark Hoffman, a skilled forger and con artist, managed to deceive Mormon church leaders into purchasing a series of fake historical documents, including a supposed Book of Abraham papyri and the Salamander letter. Hoffman capitalized on the church's desire to authenticate its history, offering what appeared to be rare documents that would lend further legitimacy to its claims. Using a mix of charm and meticulous forgery, Hoffman convinced top church leaders and scholars within Mormonism that the documents were real. His forgeries were so convincing that they led the church to pay millions of dollars. The scandal unraveled when Hoffman's fraudulent activities were uncovered after a series of bombings he orchestrated to cover his tracks. His deception revealed a darker side to the Mormon Church's obsession with historical validation and led to a major scandal shaking the church's credibility and its leaders' trust in their historical narrative.
Oh my God, no way.
Oh my God, no way.
I am absolutely convinced that the more absurd something is, the harder people are going to try and fight for its legitimacy. You never see people that are truly confident in what they believe making this big of a fuss to prove they're right.
My first experience with the temple was when my older brother got married. He came out of the temple and he had this like line across his head. And I was a teenage kid. I was like, what were you wearing? Like, you have this like crease in your skin, like you were wearing a hat. And he's like, I can't tell you. I'm like,
that's more information than any other.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? I was like, why were you wearing something? Like, what were you wearing? I was like, so like weirded out by it. Like, dude, just tell me. He's like, I can't tell you. And so I was like, one, kind of weirded out by that. He just said, oh, you'll find out one day, kind of thing. But because in the temple, you are sworn to secrecy to never reveal the secrets of the temple. Otherwise, you have to, well, I know before my day, it was like you have to slit your throat, you know?
Can somebody explain to me why revealing to somebody what type of headgear you're wearing would warrant such secrecy? It's a f***ing hat, dude. It's no wonder nobody takes you guys seriously. And what the is up with all this secrecy in religion? You want everyone to know that your God is real and that he's the only one, but yet somehow he's never cool with just announcing this himself. He's always got to have an incompetent mouthpiece or a secret order to conceal all the important stuff and leave everybody else guessing.
Or maybe it's just really what those secretive really want people to think.
Towards the end of the endowment, I remember thinking like, oh, this is why people think Mormonism is a cult. We were talking about our first temple experiences, and it wasn't, how do I say this? It wasn't as like culty or traumatic for me personally as I know it is, justifiably so, for lots of other people. And I think that partially has to do with the fact that I'm a guy, and I think a lot of the people for whom the temple is a lot more traumatic the first time are women, because it's very sexist, a lot of the wording, or at least it was. They've kind of taken some of it out, like the whole veiling of the faces thing. I don't think that's part of it anymore, but it was, when I first went through the temple, still a thing. And that stuff did bug me, but it had been explained away and apologized to me in so many different ways that I figured God's ways are not our ways.
Yeah, it's kind of like what everybody told me. Oh, God's ways are beyond our ways, which is nothing more than an empty platitude, vaguely meaning something along the lines of, quit calling me out, I don't know. But of course it's sexist. Women are viewed as the property of their fathers or husbands in all Abrahamic faiths, not just the Mormons. All of them. They're treated as second-class citizens or figures in society. Look, all I'm saying is if there was a social club, just any ordinary social club, that practiced as much bigotry, racism, sexism, homophobia, and the systematic of children as religion does, I'm sure you'd probably resign from that social club. Well, I think that's about all we got for today, guys. I hope you got some enjoyment out of today's video. If you did, make sure to show your support by smashing that like button and subscribing to my channel. Also, make sure to stay tuned in during the first of this week for a birthday vacation vlogging vid that I'll be filming in New Orleans over the weekend. I am super duper stoked for this. It's been a minute since I've been to New Orleans, probably about a year and a half, I think. I used to go all the time, like 2 or 3 times a year, but it's been a minute, so I'm really looking forward to going back and having some fun and being able to relax for my birthday. So make sure you stay updated. Thank you all so much for your support. I love and appreciate every one of you. And until next time, stay safe, stay spooky. Peace!